I love that answer because I feel like if you went into the scientist portion first, you would overanalyze ever going to something like improv,
Yeah.
right? It would turn into a mathematical equation of some sort of the probability of embarrassment versus the risk reward.
Yeah,
And you did that
exactly.
first and then pivoted into the science, which probably helped you, right?
Yeah, I think well, you know the way that I ended up, I was just good. I don't know, maybe I just think logically. You've got a logically, I guess it's right-brained. I can't remember. I'm wired that way, so I do think logically. I have a 14-year-old twins, the boy-girl twins, and my son is just so black and white logical. And I
Mhm.
remember being like that and being like,
Mhm.
well, how can these people think of gray things? And then here we are,
Yeah,
like everything in life is gray, really,
it
right? Like
is.
you should have positions and you should defend them passionately, and then you should go like, well, I got new data and that's no longer true. Let me defend the next thing passionately.
Yep.
And it really does end up being in a gray and accepting and more accepting. But I was wired black and white, right? Actually, in this conference that I was at this weekend, we were talking about something. It was like I'm just some things are just very binary, and ironically, they were like, "Well, you can't say binary. You got to be careful."
Yeah, saying that to a scientist, right? Wording and the carefulness of what you use to describe certain scientific things now, right? Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
and I just think this is more of like a business lesson, and we'll talk health eventually.
we'll
um,
get there.
that you need to be you. You need to decide what your business is about, and frankly, the more it doesn't conform to what everyone expects, the probably more successful you're going to be, right? Because it's when you get into this niche and you have a particular mindset, and that mindset may buck the norms. Like if it's just going with the norms, then there's lots of them out there. But if it bucks the norms a little bit, or even a lot, then you start getting into niches, and you can build a tribe, and you can have a successful business in that space, and just be okay. Like people are like, oh, that's stupid. Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure somebody could say that, and
Right.
that's okay. That's the gray area.
Yep. I will say it's you could say the gray area. I like to say it's the rainbow between the black and
Mm,
white and all the other colors that you're missing. That really
yeah.
makes up so much of the world out there, everything. And that's why having that open mind. A lot of times in science, you're usually very rigid about what you're probably studying, and you go down that rabbit hole and look at things in a microscope and find factual pieces, that you believe so much in the science of that. But to step away from that and hear something else and be open-minded is very, very difficult.
I
And I
I
think,
remember
go ahead.
being at conference, because you just kind of triggered a memory.
Yeah.
Being at conferences where you had a future Nobel Prize winner. This is related to the carbon molecule, and
Hmm.
then actually people who had the data that could have made the discovery first. Right, like so
Yeah.
there's a ego coming into this, just like screaming at each other in an audience. And my first thought was like, well, but science is binary. It's yes or no. It's this way or that way. And then, but so what? But you start to learn more. You start to understand the actual process, and you do have debates, and sometimes they're vigorous debates, right? Because frankly, they'd be less vigorous if people would let their ego go.
Yes.
But the debating and the digging into information is really important. I think one of the things, and I think I've said this in an interview before, we kind of, some group of people lost the fact that you can debate something and still have something be the most right answer, right? And that even at the end of the debate, you may end up in I mean, just because we can debate flat Earth doesn't really make it debatable.
Right.
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 And I think that can get lost. Like as soon as people see the debates, they're like, well, nobody knows. And that's not what's going on. It's testing the theories and then coming out of that with, logical conclusions.